it's funny that each time we start a new Lift conference, Bruce is around. That's the sort of special speaker we try to always have when we start a conference. And Bruce wrote a book about the evolution of things, how things evolve, and how ICTs are changing their design. So he's going to go back to that vision of this book he wrote 4 years ago called Shaping Things. And I leave the floor now to Bruce Sterling. So help me welcome Bruce.
There we go. Very exciting. Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be looking to this morning's session here. Right, so as Nicolas was pointing out, I wrote a book about ubiquitous computing 5 years ago. That was published 4 years ago, but I wrote it 5 years ago. And I have 20 minutes to talk about it, which is probably too long. I mean, you could go into Google image search and input the word SPIME, S-P-I-M-E, and you'll find out all kinds of useful things about practice in this area. I can't describe the concept. I already did that at Lyft once. It took me 40 minutes to do that. There is a book, a French edition of Shaping Things, which has come out. You could read that, and it's in French, which is useful. This diagram here is the simplest way I ever found to explain the contents of this book. And basically, it's a theory. It's a theory about ubiquitous computing and sustainability. This is what a comprehensive Internet of Things might look like in a hands-on future. It is a comprehensive post-industrial system that's surrounded, that's just based on things within an Internet of Things. It's a better way to put our toys away. It's just a cleaner, more rational system. But it's just a theory. I mean, it's a visionary industrial design theory, theoretical system. And you can see some of the ideas that are related to this theory in this image. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm unifying 6 big trends: conception, identification, fabrication, tracking, searching, recycling, data mining. This is like trying to nail 6 ice cubes together. And the cubes melt and the nails fall out. And there are problems with large visionary theories like this one. You might just be wrong. And that's okay, because a wrong theory can make fertile mistakes. It can lead us into new areas. Or you might be too vague to be wrong. And that's really bad, because that's just obscuring the issues. It's a kind of mysticism. Or maybe you overlook something important that did not make it into your theory. Or maybe something important happens that destroys your theory before your theory can be put into practice. So I've been watching this happen for 5 years. And 5 years later, people still read my book. And some people do use this word, SPIME, it's neologism, because it does have a useful function. A SPIME is a thing which is designed to fit into an Internet of Things. I mean, there's one thing here, and then there's another thing over there, and they might look identical, but this one has been SPIMEd. It's spimy. I mean, we need a word for this practice, and we have one. So when I wrote my book 5 years ago, UbiComp was a laboratory idea, whereas nowadays there are some serious real-world initiatives in this area. There was Cisco and their IP for Smart Objects Alliance, very interesting initiative. IBM working on smart networks, General Electric, Microsoft has some initiatives here. Nokia is doing interesting things. There are also a lot of smaller startups, people dear to my heart, such as Mabaztag and Patchbay, Thingium, Scintilla, TouchAtag, OpenSpime, and so forth. Now, I follow their activities very closely. I mean, obviously, if some person chooses to call their company OpenSpime, they've read the manual, which is sort of nice. I can't tell you if any of these companies will succeed commercially. I can promise you that in 25 years, most of them will be dead. High-tech corporations traditionally have short lives. And the time for my scheme here was 30 years. So let's show some pictures. I mean, who can't like that? Okay, so the part one of an Internet of Things spine plan is to make all the plans digital. You want planning and designing and theory to go onto the web. Now here are some paper plans for the particle collider at CERN. Old machine. Obviously, paper blueprints are really pretty inferior technology. Modern planners don't even know how to draw things like this. They literally can't use analog tools. They've gone away. So the conception and designing part is pretty well gone over. And it was the first of these 6 big trends, the first to really start a transition. So part 2, identification. Here we've got some imagery, thanks to Timo Arnall, who's about to speak here today. In my book, I talked a great deal about RFID tags, which are radio frequency identity tags. And you can see there's one down there in the corner of the laptop, that little blue circle that says RFID. And in my book, I call them RFIDs because I don't like acronyms. There is an RFID industry. But when it started, it was very dependent on the goodwill and the commercial power of 2 major industries, or 2 major players, the US Defense Department and Walmart. It was really a kind of coup, a top-down imposition, a very top-down effort, and very American. So barcodes also came from the top of the industrial food chain and were sort of imposed on the lesser players. But that effort was many decades ago. Today we have some pure play RFID outfits that are more Web 2.0-like in their philosophy. But I think it's safe to say that the RFID industry is in trouble. It's not working the way I thought it might 5 years ago. Now, there's a deeper problem with this kind of coding and identification technology, which is the magic word problem. If you tag something in order to identify it, somewhere you have to state what it is. You have to somehow associate these numbers, bars, symbols with some object. One word or one tag for one object, one thing in an Internet of Things. It's an identity problem, and that semantic problem is very, very hard. It's much harder than I imagined when I wrote my book. It's almost artificial intelligence hard. So here's a guy with a folksonomic tag cloud laser etched onto his laptop. I mean, who can't like this image? And this tag clouds were a very, very sexy idea 5 years ago because it seemed like there might be a statistical way to defeat this semantic problem. It's like, okay, maybe we can't give one specific name to one specific object, but we'll just give it a whole bunch of names, and we'll just call the object anything we want, and we'll have machines figure it out by sort of statistically comparing things. And you know, here's a whole bunch of vaguely related Web 2.0 concepts. Some are synonyms and some are antonyms and so forth. But the problem with that is that sometimes these words, I mean, these magic tags go away or vanish, and that's very problematic. Now, industrial designers are trained to make things into coherent things. I mean, a thing has like branding. It's in a nicely formed shell. It's a thing that's distinct from other things. That's sort of the point of industrial design training. But what about the components of the thing? I mean, don't the components of the thing have to have words and tags and ID too? So you've got a system of tags and sub-tags and sub-sub-tags. And now you've got just serious organizational problems and just managing names for items. And then there is this, which comes from a recent Matt Jones speech, which I stole. This is a networked physical device with a built-in physical API. an application programming interface. This is an Internet of Things thing, which is built like the Internet. In other words, it's a physical object which has been broken up into functional components and just sort of popped and snapped together the way you would design a contemporary website. I never expected to see this. This image, frankly, scares me. It's just not something I foresaw. It did not occur to me that in an Internet of Things, things might become more like Internet structures. It just frankly caught me flat-footed. So let's just move on very hastily. Okay, the next part, fabrication. Here's a bunch of fabbed objects, state-of-the-art from about 5 years ago. I thought when I wrote my book that it was a little extreme to theorize that fabrication might become a really major industrial tactic, a strategy, an ability, because we have very advanced ways to just use iron and steel and timber and so forth. Why would it make sense for these really rather fragile fabricators to take over major industrial production? I think fabrication is actually coming on pretty strong. There's a great deal of progress being made on wide fronts in this area, and people who underestimate the power of fabrication are in for a lot of surprises. I feel strong confidence about this set of technologies. They're not weird science fiction toys. They really are muscular, powerful, heavy 21st century industries. Okay, next aspect of the theory, tracking. Yes, tracking. When people hear about SPIMEs, they quickly learn that it's about things being trackable in space and time. So that's kind of the key neologism there. Now, when things get trackable in space and time, odd things occur. This is something that's happening very quickly in our society. People have a lot of good social, political, functional, personal reasons to hate and fear the idea of tracking. Tracking is happening very fast. It's a very strong, rapidly advancing technology with some very dark sides. And it's not dependable. Anybody who's ever tried to play a location-based cell phone game knows that tracking technology has a lot of lags and black holes in it. It's not perfect. It has many sinister aspects. It may be one of the most socially destabilizing of these innovations. We may not be able to handle it. And here you have an example of a technology being specifically designed for somebody who clearly has controlling issues, jealousy about their spouse, worry about their children, a need to spy on their employees. And here you have a functional company who is really trying to sell its technology to people who are emotionally disturbed. And given that this is like a real world object, you can buy one now. In fact, it's from the Sky Mall catalog, which you see constantly in the United States. It's sinister. Tracking is a very treacherous area. Next, searching. Okay. In an Internet of Things, you have to have a way to generate and study data about things. So, there you are with your things, and over here there's some extremely powerful and capable search technology, and most of it is invisible to you. The search technology is sort of beyond your comprehension. You have sort of a smooth interface on the front of it, but the substance of the search technology is basically buried underground with the sewer pipes. It's like an infrastructure you're not going to directly hack. So, is it okay if I Google, let's say, your underwear? Traditional hot button issue and search. How much can I search about you? Your underwear. Can you Google my underwear? Am I willing to let you know what my intimate lingerie looks like? How much transparency do we want? Do we want a search engine really? Or do we want a decision engine more like Microsoft Bing? Or do we really want a shopping engine sort of like Amazon? Or do we want a high security crime investigation engine like LOPSI, the new French initiative, kind of the French total information awareness thing. Do we want a scholarly engine? Do we just want to know for reasons of knowledge? Do we want the meter maid to be able to Google the car so that everyone's car is sort of automatically tagged if you park too long? Do we really want to remove these gray areas in our society and sort of perfect these practices? There's about 1 million ways to do this badly, 1 million ways to do search badly. I would be guessing we find some pretty good ways after trying about 500,000 bad ways. I mean, the amount of, the popular interest in search is fantastic. People use it all the time. A lot of people don't even know the difference between a web browser and Google. They think that the search engine is the browser. It's an extremely widely spread practice where sort of everyone's good and bad intentions are very, very immediate and obvious. Now, recycling comes next. And to me, this is the absolutely and vitally important part of my theory. It's very, very difficult to make people care about trash. We really have a wiring in our brain that makes us want to get away from the garbage and the filth. We don't want to think about garbage, filth, and entropy. It's very difficult to make people care about trash or look after trash. But if we do not accomplish this, if we don't manage our trash, our effluent, better, our civilization is going to collapse. It's just very obvious. The very worst problem that our civilization faces has nothing to do with ICT directly. It's the greenhouse effect, which is a trash problem. And it is a deadly serious problem. It is terrifying. We have not found a way to let industry pay us to save our own lives. And that's really a very serious design flaw. Now, my spine scheme is a kind of trick to make that important thing, that important accomplishment, more possible. We're basically taking ICT technology, wrapping up objects, and as a sort of after effect, we wrap up the trash better. But that's an indirect way to tackle a critical issue, and we may not have enough time left to do it in such a graceful way. We may very well just get run over by a giant runaway engine full of trash. We may be crushed by climate change while we're still trying to boot our netbooks and tag everything. And then lastly, there's the Internet of Things as a technology, as a physical object, as a series of pipes. A series of pipes in which all the physical pipes in the world are somehow contained in the virtual pipes. You know, that is a very beautiful idea. And when it hit me, I was impressed by the kind of science fictional majesty of it. It may be impossible. It may just not be possible to do. It may just literally be too hard. It may be beyond our capacity. It might fall apart faster than we could possibly build it. We might get bored with it. Or we might go broke trying to do it. Or it might wash away in bad weather. Or somebody might blow it up. Or there just might be shorts or fall downs or fail whales in it. I know it's very, very hard work. Very hard work. It's really going to take a kind of sublime genius to pull off a thing like this. I think we will do it. I think we're going to do it. So a spine is a recyclable thing within an Internet of Things. That's not the only way we have to frame future possibilities. We have rival ideas or competitive ideas, not Internet of Things, there's Internet of Screens, Internet of Services, Internet of Identities, many, many parallel projects, a lot of theories like my theory. How do you know if a theory is any good? It has to be falsifiable. There has to be something wrong with it. So I've been talking about wrong aspects of my theory. My theory makes some predictions, and they may fail. So if we're going to have an Internet of Things, we're going to see some strong future enterprises that combine some of these 6 factors I was talking about, like an enterprise that's both tracking and recycling, or it's metadata and it's designing, you're going to see some vertical integration through that stack. Whoop. This stack here. I love this device. This stack. You'll see companies, or enterprises at least, trying to unite some of these things. If that doesn't happen, my idea is wrong. Spine theory predicts that an Internet of Things will start in physical places. It will start in centers of excellence. In other words, it's not spread all over the world at once like a cloud or like paint. People will get good at doing it in particular areas, particular professions, places, campuses, hospitals, emergency sites, whatever. Then they refine the practice and it spreads out physically from there. That may not be true. For instance, you might find out that searching and tracking and tagging are not things in a locality. Instead, they're handheld applications, that it's something that you pull out of your pocket, you wave it around, you look through it, you carry it wherever you go. It's not linked to any particular place. If that is so, then an Internet of Things theory breaks down. You're much better talking about urban informatics theory, augmented reality theory. It's just a better way to think about it. And then there's the final problem, which is the human element. I wrote a novel about the Internet of Things. I tried really hard. The Internet of Things is almost invisible in that book. All the characters are just talking about themselves and their daily lives and their problems, their jobs, their loved ones, their busted affairs, their difficulties. It's hard to notice an Internet of Things. We may build an Internet of Things and not see it. We won't be able to see it any more than we can see barcodes or mass production or the greenhouse effect or the factory farm system. It may be something that's just going on in the background that we do not really see or plan or talk coherently about, a phantom for visionaries. And would that be such a bad thing? Maybe not. That might be, in fact, the victory condition. So thank you very much.